So I'm Frankie Reamer. I think I know almost everybody on the call today. It's good to see everyone. Kathy Rutherford, our chair, is unable to come to join us today. So I'm going to be facilitating along with Shelley Haken. So we will be doing the best we can. But we're both really excited that you're all here. We have so many candidates here, local candidates running for local offices here. So I think we'll have a really exciting conversation. We do have at least one announcement. I know that Stephen is here, and Stephen is going to tell us about the DORR's golf tournament.
Sort of a tournament.
I couldn't remember what the word was. So
Scramble.
a golf outing.
Yeah.
Scramble.
Scramble.
Okay, I'll try to go really quick. So if any of you on this Zoom right now have friends who golf, or if you golf, we have the first annual DORR fundraising golf scramble. Basically what this is, it's going to be on July 9th at Canyon Mesa Country Club, which is the beautiful 9-hole course in Village of Oak Creek on Jack's Canyon Road. And so basically the deal is for $90, which will include a lunch, people starting at 8:30, we will have as many foursomes as sign up. We can have a maximum of 40 golfers. Each foursome will start at one of the holes. And basically the way it works is to make it as easy as possible for people who are not experienced golfers. Instead of everybody playing their ball all the way to the green, in the foursome, whoever gets the best shot, everybody else in that foursome goes to that location and drops their ball in that spot. So it goes faster. People don't have to be intimidated if they're not experienced. Like I said, it starts at 8:30. Registration is at 8 a.m. We made it early so we could avoid the heat. And later in the afternoon, and then after everybody golfs, we're going to have a lunch in the little community center at Canyon Mesa. So it's $90. The way you can sign up is you can mail a check to Democrats of the Red Rocks and the P.O. Box at 1165 at Sedona 86339. We have an Act Blue site where you can sign up. It's ActBlue/donate/DORR golf and lunch, if you can remember that or write it down.
Maybe you can put it in the chat.
Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah.
Stephen? Yeah, and maybe with the date and time as well.
Yeah. All right. I'll just copy and paste the info that I put on the Facebook post, and that'll be there for everybody. So, I don't know how many people right now are golfers, but if you are, or anybody, we had originally had a June 20th deadline. We've extended it to June 27th. And the golf course told me that they need to know who's golfing by July 1. So we might even be able to extend it a couple of extra days. So we can we're hoping to get at least 30. We can have 40. If we can get 32, that would be awesome. Anything over that would be great. So that's the story. I'll post the info in the chat. And I wish I could hang out and listen to everybody, but I've got a whole bunch of things to do today. So I will watch the video. Thanks. Good seeing everybody.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Stephen.
Thank you.
So, any other announcements, anything that I don't know about that we need to share before we move on to the program?
Okay.
Yes. Okay, so we have, I have I am going to see I'm going to see the city council candidates again next week, which is sort of an off-sided announcement that Keep Sedona Beautiful and NASCA, Northern Arizona Climate Change Alliance, and the Sustainability Council are going to be facilitating a forum for the city council candidates on Tuesday, June 21st at 6 at KSB on Brewer Road. The forum is going to specifically focus on Sedona's climate action plan and candidates' engagement with the climate action plan and issues around sustainability. So that will also be, there's a Zoom option for that as well if folks are interested. And we'll put the information in the chat as well. So if you, so we'll have another chance to talk to some of the candidates on Tuesday next week. And I know some of you have also been to the League of Women Voters forums that are happening. So lots of opportunities to chat with and get to know the candidates that we're going to be seeing today or engaging with today. So we're very excited that today we are fortunate to have 2 candidates who are running for mayor. And 3 candidates who are running for city council and a candidate for Coconino County Justice of the Peace. Very exciting. We've asked each of the folks who are joining us to, I'm going to get my notes so I remember what Ellen told me to say. We ask each candidate to speak for 5 to 7 minutes, introducing themselves, talking about priorities, and any other things they'd like to share with the group. What we thought we'd do is we thought we'd have Sandy Moriarty and Scott Joblo speak first, and then we'll to have some time for engagement, questions. You can post questions in the chat, or there's not so many of us, so plenty of time to ask questions. And then we'll go from there to the city council candidates, and then to Bernadine Lewis, candidate for the Justice of the Peace. So we'll start with Sandy Moriarty, who and I'm reading what I wrote on the press release, but of course we know Sandy. So, and you have received emails, so you have more information than I'm going to tell you. But Sandy, the mayor of a member of the first appointed city council and one of the founders of Sedona Recycles, one of my very favorite institutions, and Sedona Wine Fest. And running for re-election. Sandy is our current mayor. So we'll hand over the floor to Sandy. And Sandy, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Frankie, and good morning, everyone. And many thanks to DORR for putting on this local candidates forum. In the time I've served as mayor, I've learned a great deal about how government works to serve residents and visitors alike. Serving during a once-in-a-lifetime pandemic was a special challenge and proved that I was willing to make difficult decisions in a critical time. I've built the relationships needed to work with regional, state, and national partners to solve the many problems we face today and into the future. Having lived in Sedona for 50 years, I understand the community well, and I've been involved with several nonprofits, as well as serving on the Housing Commission for 6 years, and now mayor for nearly 8 years. I'm on the executive committee of the League of Arizona Cities and Towns. I chair one of their 5 policy committees, and I serve on another. Regionally, I serve on the Verde Front and Sustainable Flows Collaboratives and convene a bi-weekly meeting of Verde Valley mayors, managers, supervisors, and other community leaders. I believe I am a well-established leader in Sedona and the Verde Valley, as well as at the state level through my work with the League of Arizona Cities and Towns. Traffic congestion is still a top issue of concern. Our Sedona in Motion transportation plan will maximize the use of our sales and bed tax dollars, 77% of which is paid by our visitors, to mitigate traffic problems by leveraging contributions and grants from both the federal and state governments. We are actively engaging with these partners to move our strategies forward, including improvements to manage traffic during busy periods, bike and pedestrian paths, the Forest Road extension, the Tlaquepaque underpass, an uptown parking garage to consolidate parking, transit to reduce the number of cars on our streets and roads, and sign technology designed to mitigate backups on SR 179. Most of the improvements on SR 89A and Uptown are finished, but we continue to work on northbound traffic issues there. Diverse housing is a critical part of our community plan, but finding a way to achieve it is one of the most difficult challenges we face. The 2020 census numbers revealed a stunning but not unexpected fact. Sedona's population has decreased in the last 10 years and is now under 10,000. Although the reasons vary to some extent, much of the blame seems to fall on the proliferation of vacation rentals in the last 5 years, beginning in 2017, when the governor and the legislature prohibited bans on them, as well as any meaningful regulation of them. Prior to that date, Sedona had such a ban in place, which we had to remove. We now have over 950 vacation rental properties within our city limits and over 550 outside city limits, primarily in the Village of Oak Creek area. There are now more rooms available in vacation rental properties than there are in hotels. The proliferation of these rentals has driven up both the price of homes and the price of residential rentals in a market that was already lacking in apartments and multiple family properties. Many residents have been forced out of their long-term rentals so they could be converted to short-term rentals. We all choose to live in Sedona because of its stunning natural beauty, clean air, water, and small town feel. We must protect what makes Sedona unique. That means protecting our trails, dark skies, neighborhoods, and peace and quiet, maintaining a sustainable water supply, and flows in the Verde River are especially critical. Climate change is real and poses the most existential threat to life as we know it on our planet, Mother Earth. Our climate action plan outlines steps to reduce community-wide emissions by 50% by the year 2030. We are providing charging stations for electric vehicles both in Uptown and West Sedona, and our trailhead shuttles offer residents and visitors alike a low-carbon way to visit favorite hiking destinations without worrying about traffic or parking. In February, we launched our Home Energy Retrofit Project, which offers residential energy efficiency funding to low and moderate income residents, which will reduce emissions and lower utility bills. Our partnership with the Chamber of Commerce for the implementation of the Sustainable Tourism Plan and our update of our community plan form the basis for the protection of Sedona, the most beautiful place on earth in so many ways. As a proud founder of Sedona Recycles, I will continue to support policies and champion programs that promote environmental sustainability, waste reduction, reuse and recycling, walkability, green building codes, and smart land management. All of this can be done while ensuring that our city codes are sensible, efficient, and not overly burdensome to homeowners and business owners. The city is required by Arizona law to adopt a balanced budget every July and to live within our means. We must balance our priorities to meet the needs of residents, business owners, and visitors, and make sure that we are saving enough for a rainy day without hoarding funds that should be used to make our community more beautiful and more livable. Following the 2018 election, the city manager convened a task force of residents to investigate the diverse options available under state law and make a recommendation regarding alternative spending limitations for cities and towns. Putting home rule to a vote every 4 years was the option recommended, and we are following that recommendation. I fully support voting yes on home rule, which basically allows the city to spend the funds we have available to benefit the city. It is one of the few instances we have of deciding for ourselves to keep local control, in this case, of our budget. Thanks again to DORR, and thanks to all of you for attending today's forum. For more information, please visit mayorsandy.com, and I'm asking for your vote in the August 2nd primary. Thanks.
Thanks, Sandy. Scott, you want to jump in and go and take the floor, and then we'll open it up for questions?
Sure. Thank you very much, Frankie, for hosting this event today, and thank you to DORR and all of the members of the organization. I appreciate the opportunity to speak this morning. You all know, of course, I'm Scott Giablo. I'm currently your vice mayor. I moved here in 2010, and I have been on city council since 2014. I've been your voice on city council. I care about the things you care about, and I am running for mayor to continue that fight for the residents, for all the issues that matter to us all. I have always thought of myself as a representative of, representative of the residents. I have been very approachable for 8 years. I have been out in the public and out and about meeting with HOAs and businesses alike. I want to look at bringing back town hall type meetings for more outreach. I think it's important to listen to the voters and listen to the residents and hear what people have to say so that we can make an educated decision in our votes. I have been working with residents to stop the environmental destruction of our beautiful lands by OHVs. A few months ago, I went down to Phoenix to stand with those residents to build relationships with our state representatives and legislatures. I share with them how the vehicles are impacting our Forest Service and our community. And I believe that we really made a good dent in building that relationship and working together. I recently proposed a change to the state legislation through our League of Cities and Towns, and my proposal is now being under review. So I support the initiatives to develop workforce housing here in Sedona through the Sunset Loft Project, which is about to break ground and will provide 46 housing units to our workforce. I voted to establish a down payment assistance loan program to help people that work in our city, and I voted to establish a joint housing manager with Cottonwood so that we could take a regional approach to a housing problem. That manager has already brought in $2.5 million for new housing units of quality, affordable housing. I also support hiring our legislative advocate, who I think was a great value for us, who is dedicated to bringing Sedona's needs to our state legislature. We got closer this year to passing legislation that would restore local control to short-term rentals than we ever have before. I won't stop fighting until we have the authority we need and the local control back in our towns and all cities across the country, across the state rather, as it should be, to control our destiny. So we need to stop the devastation of corporate-owned short-term rentals and the impact to our community, because we lose the people that live here and work here. We lose children in our schools, we lose diversity in our economy. I've been working behind the scenes on numerous occasions and meetings, studying the issues that confront our community. I have been a strong advocate to keep our city healthy and safe, and I always make sure that our police have the funding and tools they need to keep our city protected. I have worked with residents and our police department and city staff to make sure our Sedona is emergency ready and we have a good evacuation plan that's up to date. I support the transit system and traffic improvements to address the congestion on our roads and protect our environment by reducing greenhouse gas emissions. On council, I've been a strong voice for these and other issues, and I work directly with residents. I believe that that's the core value of us, to work with our residents. If you have any questions, I'm always available. I have maintained a phone number in my house. I'm always available. I recommend you give me a call. I think my phone number is out there, 928-239-1720. If you need any information about me that you haven't already learned, go to my website, electscottmayor.com. And I thank you again for speaking today, and I look forward to having your votes on the August 2nd primary election. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott, my neighbor, someone who I get to see frequently as we're walking the neighborhood. So thank you, and thank you, Mayor Sandy, as well. So questions, we can open up for a few minutes. You can raise your hand. You can put a question in the chat.
I'm not seeing any questions, so if I may be missing it.
I'm not seeing any either.
Oh, wait a minute. Would you have, this is from Sedona, Stephen. We have various Sedona area residents. Okay, that's the golf. Okay.
Okay, yeah. So I can start us off. I forgot to mention, Scott, that you had been on the fire board.
Yes.
In the past, and we know we were talking about the fire that's north of Flagstaff, and I know that fire is a concern for all of us who live in Sedona. So I'm wondering, for both Sandy and Scott, if you could talk a little bit about how we as residents here or think, how does city leadership help us think about fire safety?
Sandy, you want to go first?
Sure. We have created an evacuation booklet for people, and we are currently working to put together a pilot project. And actually, we agreed to expand it to citywide for an evacuation plan for the city. So we are, of course, I think we always have to keep in mind, if a fire happens, we don't have a lot of time to think about what we're going to do. And the best laid plans sometimes go awry when you're in an emergency like that. So, but we will have a plan in place that's underway. We agreed to it, I believe, on Tuesday to expand it to citywide. So we will have that plan in place, and there's a good emergency information for citizens available now. So I think that's available now, right, Scott?
Yes.
Yeah.
But I'd like to add, are you done, Madam Mayor? Okay, thank you.
Sure.
I would like to add that it's important that people understand that the city of Sedona is not the primary response organization. Both counties take the lead on that. We supplement them, we help them, we work with very closely. I might add, our police chief and fire chief are a great team, and they work with each county. And the counties work amongst themselves as well. For the slide fire, I was on the fire board at the time. I think I was just on city council, and I was able to go up to the fairgrounds up in Coconino to see the response of the hot shots. It was truly amazing. In a matter of a night, the pup tents were erected, buildings were erected. These organizations are so finely tuned. They really know how to protect communities, and I feel really safe having them at the lead. But like the mayor said, we have just created or approved funding to do a plan to fine tune our response, our evacuation plan, so people will know a little bit better where to go, when to go. You would be able to, and I should add, if you go onto the Nixle website and sign up ahead of time, so if you get a response from Nixle that will say, there's an emergency, it's best to evacuate from this direction, that direction, and it should be neighborhood specific. There'll be indications of either by color or by letters or numbers telling people where to go. That's something new that we're working on, and I believe it would take about a year to implement, but it's something we're really very focused on.
And I think it's because the counties are in charge of emergency management. Code red for, I think each of them has a code red. I know I've signed up for Nixle and the 2 code reds, because the main information on an emergency like that would come from code red.
Right.
I think Nixle would just direct you to code red. So as many people that can sign up as possible, it will be all the better off we'll all be.
Right.
So how much responsibility, input, participation does the mayor have in situations like fire concerns?
Well, the mayor would declare the emergency if there is one. If there's one needed, the mayor declares the emergency. That's one of the few powers of the mayor. Running the meetings and declaring emergency. That's pretty much it for what the mayor can do on his or her own. So we do that, and we are, of course, integrated in the process of the planning. And I would be on site if we had one today. I would be very. We would create a command headquarters, and the airport, by the way, is a staging area for helicopters who are working the fire and possibly small planes. But you've probably seen during the summer, there's a helicopter just staged there all the time for that specific purpose, they go out to the sewage treatment plant, dip the buckets in the sewage treatment plant for water, and then go to the fire with it. So we're well prepared.
Peggy, I saw that your hand's up. Nice
Well,
to see you.
Yeah, I just want to put a plug in for our fire department here. Keep Sedona Beautiful had a community conversation, and we had their participation, and they have fabulous materials especially a CD that you can get from them about embers, ember fires, ember caused fires, and they'll come to your house. They came to our house the other day because we border the forest, and they'll do an evaluation of your property and give you tips on how you can make your house ember safe, which is what causes most houses going up in flames. So preparation by residents themselves is key here. And one of the other tips they gave us was that when we have a fire that we know is in our area, if you can secure your home as best as possible and have your go bag ready, the sooner you go, the less you will add to the confusion of other people trying to leave. So you take your responsibility seriously and secure your home well beforehand. And then if something is happening, try to have your emergency plan and leave early. Don't wait to be in line to leave.
Go means go.
No, don't wait for go. Don't wait for go, because go is when everybody thinks they have to go.
Well, but
Know that you can leave before that.
it's a ready, set, go system. 3 steps.
I know that. Yeah, I
Yeah.
know that. Yeah.
So other questions, other concerns for Councilman Jablo, Mayor Moriarty, while we have them? Oh, yes, Helen.
I was going to ask regarding transit. First of all, your startup of the trail shuttle sounded very successful. It sounded like you were getting a lot of ridership right off the bat,
Yeah.
and that's terrific. Is there any way at all? I keep thinking of the Vail model for transit, where if you want to visit various things in Vail, you have to abandon your car and then get in the shuttle. And there's some national parks that run that way, where you cannot drive your car to every vista. You have to get into a shuttle. Is there any way, it's tough in Sedona because these are state highways that come through our town and we can't
Yep.
shut them down.
No. we
Uh,
can't.
but is there any way that you've thought about to capture more of the traffic before it actually gets into the heart of Sedona till it gets to the Y?
Absolutely, we have. We purchased the property by the high school for that very purpose. If the cultural park develops somehow, we probably have something over there too, per the development agreement. And we are, it's hard to find something on 179. We've done it for the trailhead shuttles. And some people apparently got the idea because the trailhead shuttles are there. Well, we accelerated the trailhead shuttle part of it to try to hit spring break and be ready to relieve more traffic than we have been able to in the past. So those shuttles were supposed to not come along until the 4th or 5th phase of the transit development. We are going for a full-fledged transit system, and we should have our micro transit in place this fall, probably late fall. Like everything else, there were supply chain issues in getting the buses and getting them outfitted and everything, but the buses we have now are hybrids. When we go to the regular buses, we're hoping eventually at least to go all electric. And a lot of people aren't aware of that, but we have the plan laid out for a full-fledged transit system. No, we cannot stop, and we have to negotiate with the state highway department, ADOT, for what we do on the roads that we have, because our main arterials really are the 3 ways in and out are all state highways. But yes, we're looking at putting as much as we can, putting a place where people could park and then shuttle or take transit where they need to be. And of course, the easiest way, if they're staying at a hotel, then they can park their car once and just take transit from then on, once we have the system fully developed. But of course, that takes time. But yes, we are planning for that.
Great. How would you describe micro transit? What does that mean?
Can I just add one thing?
On demand into the neighborhoods.
I just like to add one thing, Helen, that on 179, there was a site study from 17 all the way up to the Y for additional land. And other than the Little Horse Trailhead, there's no land available. It seems that the Forest Service is really reluctant to give up any of their land, which would be perfect along 179 because it would eliminate cars having to go through the neighborhoods at all. So from what I'm hearing, that there is some consideration for Little Horse to expand it to some degree, but that would be sometime in the future. It all takes time, especially working with the Forest Service. They're not very forthcoming with information, and they're not very easy to want to make change. But and everything the mayor said is correct, but we really need to focus more on 179 and get some bigger lots there.
Well, I'm sorry, as a retired
It was
federal
tough
employee,
getting those.
that
It
you're
was
not.
tough getting the one we got over there. And so it's not easy on that side of town, but we don't give up. We'll keep working on it.
Okay, well, I'm sorry that the federal government has not been a better partner. I don't know what you, yeah, enough said.
They have their constraints. All government does.
I know.
So it's tough. We work well together. We always have. People think we don't talk to them. We talk to them all the time. We're working with them constantly.
Any other comments, questions? Peggy?
Peggy has something.
Yes, Peggy? Oh, you're muted.
I just have a comment. You know, you're such a good team on our present council. I feel, you know, awfully sad that you're running against each other. And I know you've spoken about this probably amongst yourselves, but I just, you know, I wish this weren't the problem that we're facing now of having such two good candidates, and it's just makes it very difficult for voters.
This will be my last term if I win. That would put 10 years, and yeah, I won't be running again. So we'll see what happens.
Okay, do I see any other hands? I don't think so. Thank you, Peggy, for that. I know we all feel, we all feel the same because we do have two candidates and who we know both professionally and also personally. And so this makes it difficult for all of us, and because we so appreciate the time and the energy that you both are giving to steward the city. So, absolutely.
Thank you, Peggy. Thank you, Peggy, for your comments, and thank you, Frankie. I appreciate that as well. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so then we will thank both of our mayoral candidates for joining us. Again, we much appreciate seeing you, and I look forward to seeing you around town. And now we'll move on, I think, to the three candidates for city council, and then also we have Bernadine Lewis, who is here, who's the candidate again, I've said this now twice, for Coconino County Justice of the Peace. So why don't we hear from all four, and then we can stop and have a conversation so that we have time for everybody to present. So we'll start with I have Brian Fultz first, small town business owner, was involved with the Sedona Citizens Academy, also the 10-year community plan update working group. So we'll pass the floor to Brian.
All right, thank you, Frankie, appreciate it. So good morning, everybody. I know I've met many of you a time or two by now, but I'm Brian Fultz. I live in the Chapel area, right across the street from Sue and Tom Gould. Good morning, Sue and Tom, across the street, and Frankie around the corner. I'm an 18-year property owner here, but just completing my first year as a full-time resident, along with my wife, Amy, who's the director at the Sedona Charter School. We're originally from Indiana. We've lived through or lived in much of the Midwest, as well as Georgia, Florida, Tokyo, Japan, but Sedona's been calling us here for a long time. I'm a degreed rocket scientist by original training and also have an MBA from the University of Chicago. I've worked for large companies like General Electric and Accenture, but for the last 16 years, I've been a small business owner. And I still am a small business owner today with a consulting company that works for mid-sized to large global enterprise clients, as well as co-own some franchises outside of the state of Arizona. As far as, you know, when I think about Sedona and the issues that we face, I would certainly start off with short-term rentals, and Mayor Sandy shared every statistic and factoid that anybody could need. So I'm not even going to try to repeat any of those, but just say that short-term rentals are at the top of the trickle-down effect on housing shortages, excess traffic, excess tourism. And so we've got to continue to fight for reform of SB 1350 in whatever form it comes. And so I'm certainly supportive of the legislative advocate that we hired, and we'll be continuing to have work on our behalf. I think that we have to be willing to talk to people that oppose our views on this. I think we should be inviting the legislators that are opposed to reform, invite them to Sedona. Let's have a forum here, not to yell at them, but have dialogue. We've got to keep talking to the people that don't want to agree with us, like when it comes to the short-term rentals. Another area that's important is the OHV crisis, and Scott talked about that and work he's doing. And I've been involved in that, from planning protests to writing the Forest Service and so forth. And again, we've got to continue to dialogue with these people that are either standing in our way or are disagreeing with us. And I've even gone and visited the largest ATV operator here in town and talked to him. And one of his comments was, gee, you're the first person that's actually come and talked to me rather than just badmouth me over social media. So I just really believe strongly that we have to be willing to dialogue in order to make progress on these issues like short-term rentals, workforce housing, the environment, and traffic. They're all important, and we have to keep working on those. From an environmental perspective, I'm a trained climate reality corps volunteer, so I certainly believe that climate change is real. And in fact, I just got home last night from Jackson Hole and was in Yellowstone literally the day before the flooding began. And, you know, it's no longer sufficient to plan on being above the 100-year floodplain to assume that you're going to be safe. Climate change is causing great volatility and in our weather patterns, and so the risks are increasing, and we're certainly at risk here. And we certainly saw flood damage last year during monsoon season. So we've got to take it serious. And I know a lot of times people say, "Oh, well, we're just a little town of 10,000 people, so you know, what's it matter what we do here?" But it does. Every one of us matters individually, and then collectively, that's what really can move the needle when it comes to climate change. As I've been running for this position on city council, I've said that there was kind of three spirits to my campaign: strong community, resident focus, and local control. And I think that those are super important. I think that the existing mayor and council have done a great job of expressing and working on matters that benefit the community, despite a lot of rancor on social media to the contrary. And I think that one of the areas we've got to continue to improve upon is how we communicate and inform the residents of our community that we really are working on problems that matter and that affect them, and that they are in fact front of mind or top of mind with us. And I bring that up in part because I've gotten involved with an organization called Sedona Residents Unite. It's a nonpartisan group. And what's interesting is most of those folks have had sort of a throw the bums out attitude about the existing council. And I feel like at times I've been the adult in the room saying, you know, no, if that's what you think, then you need to learn more, because the mayor and council are doing what is needed to try to address these issues. And we don't have unilateral control to seize back any type of regulation of short-term rentals, and we can't outlaw OHVs on the highway in town. So I think it's been, I think I've actually had an opportunity to be quite influential with that group in getting them to see that there's more to the issue than just seeing what you don't like and yelling about it. And there's still work to do on that, without a doubt, but I do feel like I've had some success in that regard. And along with that, I just also want to share, I'm pleased to have DORR's endorsement along with JT and Pete. And I hope you vote for all three of us and tell everybody about all three of us. And I want to just kind of close, I think, with saying that there's 6 candidates running for 3 spots on the city council. And there's a big difference between the 3 that you're endorsing and the 3 that you're not. Because if you read what they write, those other 3 candidates, they all think that the mayor and council are incompetent or greedy or in some other way, caring about anything but the residents in this community. And it couldn't be further from the truth. And so I think it's really important that we all be prepared to talk about that when we hear people grumbling and they start talking about those other candidates. Just know that they are opposed to much of what the council's been working on, the good works, the transit plan, home rule. I mean, some of these candidates oppose those things. So I'll wrap it up there and just say thank you again, DORR, for your support, your encouragement. I couldn't do this without you. And as the new kid in town, so to speak, compared to some of the other candidates, I definitely need your help with getting the word out. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Michelle, I see your hand up. Do you have a question specifically for Brian, or can it wait? Do you want to wait for the other folks?
I just wanted to say, and I'm not sure if I was alone in this, but Brian was just breaking up for me. So I think he had a lot of good things to say, but I was only getting a part of it. Was that just me?
I think I didn't break up, so it might have, although we might be in the same, Brian and I might be in the same neighborhood. So
Okay.
yeah, I didn't break up, so it might have been your internet.
Got it. Thank you.
I could hear him just fine, and I'm not in your neighborhood, so.
Yeah.
Having had a lot of internet problems, and I finally went with the company that works, I know. what
Yeah.
that's like.
And I'm in Cottonwood and I heard everything, so.
Okay, good. So
Sorry I
maybe-
can't vote for you guys, but
Yeah.
I support you.
Michelle, if you have a specific question, I guess you can, pose it in the next couple of minutes. Sandy, did you want to say anything before we go on to our next candidate?
I just wanted to thank you for bringing this brand new idea. Well, I'm not being facetious, but this idea that we have to listen to each other, educate ourselves, finding out what these issues, what sort of time they take. I mean, the world is spinning very quickly, but it's so nice to think that we should be educating ourselves and speaking to each other rather than what we see politically. So thank you for reminding us.
Okay, let's go on to Pete Furman. Our candidates know everything about city government. So the list of committees in which Pete has been engaged is long. I will let Pete introduce himself and tell us about his role in town. Pete, the stage is yours.
Great, thank you, Frankie. I was hoping that you would do that long introduction, so I wouldn't have to do it again, but I'm good with that too. I know that I've spoken to many of you, and I did want to start by saying, like Brian did, that thank you, DORR, for the endorsement. That carries meaning for me. It's significant, and I appreciate that DORR considered that and made that decision. So. As I said, I think we've met most of the people here, and so that's wonderful. You know me as the current Planning and Zoning Commissioner in Sedona. I'm also on the Sedona Police Pension Board, and I've served in the past here on city work groups, one that Mayor Sandy mentioned on home rule. And in fact, that group elected me or appointed me to be the spokesman and make the presentation to City Council on the day that we did that. So I think that I understand home rule quite deeply, and yes, we did support home rule as a decision from that group, and I continue to support that. I've also been on the work group on the city budget. So and then, Frankie, as you alluded to, before I moved to Sedona, which was some 4 years ago now, a little over 4 years ago, I was the chief of staff to the mayor in San Jose, California. and served in that role for 8 years before moving here. So I think I've been hanging out around the city government now for local government for 15 years or so. And I think I carry a lot of understanding about how to work with mayors and council members and city managers and city staff, and most importantly, the public, because that's, you know, if you try to make some decisions and you're making the wrong ones, the public will tell you. You just have to listen and think thoroughly through the issues. So my campaign, like the others we've talked about, are focusing on our quality of life issues that we've already discussed, you know, short-term rentals and workforce housing and traffic related issues. These issues we all recognize are very difficult to solve. They would take a long-term commitment by the city council to keep pushing them. So these quality of life issues, along with ATVs, is another kind of major quality of life issue that we talk about on the campaign trail quite a bit. Protecting our environment, you know, like Brian, like Mayor, like Scott, like everybody. I admit climate change is real, and our climate action plan is a good piece of work. Government has a role and a responsibility to lead and demonstrate and motivate people to take the actions that it is. My particular focus these days for climate change for me is around water and fire with the drought that's real and impacts us directly, and then local control as we've talked about. So you know, the old saying is everything has been said not by everybody yet. So I could go into detail on those, but I won't, because I think we all appreciate that. But I will remark that as I've been out on the campaign trail and people ask me this very interesting question about what keeps you up at night, or what do you think is the biggest problem in Sedona? And they all are, of course. But for me, they sync together, and I think about the path that we're on. And I think there's a fork in the road, and we're trying to decide what fork we want to be on. And one is, and the primary issue is that our population is shrinking. And I find that to be very, very concerning, because with a smaller population, we really lose the ability to be a completely coherent and focused community. So with full-time residents declining, that will cause the businesses that we depend on, that serve the full-time residents, to disappear. They, already are. Most of us have already chosen doctors far out of town. My new primary care physician is in Flagstaff. And so it's this kind of path that we need to change from. I'd like to see us growing our population, building more housing, more varieties of housing, be able to attract younger people, families, the workforce to Sedona. And we can't do it all here in Sedona, but we need to do what we can. We need to work across the Verde Valley to help that happen, to establish a transportation system, and put us back on the path of being a residential community, a community. And so these are all the things that City Council is currently doing. And if you pay attention, and if you go to the meetings like I do, you know that I will be, if elected, will join the City Council proudly. I am not running a reform campaign. I'm looking to join the very qualified and very caring members of the City Council that exist. And you will have my commitment to continuing that focus, to work on those difficult issues across 4 or longer, more years. And that's I bring some of that experience on how to work in that environment and that commitment to get that stuff done. So that's really what I wanted to say. I definitely appreciate all of your attention and the support you've given me so far. The campaign is not yet over. Brian accurately said there's 6 of us running for those 3 seats, and JT and Brian and I think work really well together. We appreciate each other's point of view, and would think that would be great if the 3 of us would get to become new members of the City Council. The most important thing for all of you to do would be, 1, to vote, to talk to everybody that you know about us as candidates, and spread that word. And then for me particularly, there's still some yard signs in my pickup truck that can go in somebody's yards and great locations. And I'm not yet quite done with my fundraising for my campaign to do all the things that I think that we need to do to win these elections. And so if you've got some capacity and can make a donation, I appreciate that. And that, Frankie, is really all that I wanted to say today. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. We have such an exciting slate of candidates. And I was just thinking, Pete, as you were speaking, how great it would, what a great council we will be having once the three of you get elected. I mean, it's really going to be very exciting. We have Kathy Kinsella, who's here already on council, who well represents us. So I know that you would be joining a very committed and a thoughtful group of people.
Yep.
So we have JT, John Thompson, coming up next. Many of us know JT as well, very well versed in council affairs. So JT, we'll give you the floor and I'll let you introduce yours and say more about yourself.
Thank you, Frankie, and thank you to DORR for doing this, and especially for hanging in there as we continue to make you move your date to a different date. Council got in the way with you for that a couple of times. I got to say before I even start, that second guy in that picture there with Pete, I'd like to get him on council too.
I was thinking the same.
We wouldn't need me up running if you got Ryan and those two guys. So, and that's one way I'd like to start in with this. Who would not want to serve with Pete Furman and Brian Foltz? You just heard them talk. I've had the opportunity to talk with them further, and they're every bit as qualified and as outstanding as they seem. And I hope everyone here votes for them, even if you don't put a mark on anywhere else on your ballot. Those guys have got to get in. Luckily, well, I don't know if it's luckily, we have 3 openings, and I was finding myself in the spot of trying to decide whether to run for another term. And with only Pete and Brian there that I felt very strongly about, I was concerned that everyone here on this call and anyone who cares about continuing the good work that's being done in the city wouldn't have a good third option. So that was one of the reasons that I decided to step up and stand for re-election again. So John Thompson, I go by JT because tends to be a lot of Johns on council when I'm around. So it's one way of keeping me different. And Felicia, you're getting in my picture there. Anyway, I'm a 16, Felicia and I are 16-year residents here. And the simplest way that I can explain myself is I'm all about sustainability. In my retirement, I tried to figure out what can I do to promote sustainability and make sure people were aware of what's going on with climate change. And so that's led me through a couple of different things. I served on the Citizens Committee for the Community Plan. That's the community plan that we have currently, and was instrumental in helping get that vision formed in such a way that it said that sustainability is an underlying goal of everything we do. And so I decided when that was adopted that I needed to run for council in order to make sure that that vision got promoted and got into our policy. In the 4 years that I was on council from 2014 to 2018, same first 4 years as Scott and Sandy, there was a slow but deliberate move to get that done. We eventually moved sustainability up to a #1 priority a couple of years in. And we finally achieved the objective of getting a sustainability coordinator as a position in our staff, and got that position hired. And so when it came time for considering reelection, I figured that maybe there were nonprofit organizations that I was involved with that I could spend more of my time working on sustainability than on council, and that the council was off on the right foot. It was moving in the right direction, and we had some good momentum going. So I decided to focus my attention instead on the Healthy World Sedona, which is very deeply involved in efforts to make us a more sustainable world, and the Sustainability Alliance, and some other things that were related to that. So I focused my time on that. And then the two people that I was really excited about who ran in 2018, both had to resign. And so Tom Lampkin and I, who both had decided not to run, wound up putting our names in to be appointed back onto the council to help get through the very difficult transition that was going on with COVID and the like. The other thing that was happening during that particular time was there was a clear shift from where sustainability really needed to be promoted. I was finding that the public as a whole pretty much knew about what was going on, and either they were never going to change their minds, which is a smaller and smaller proportion, or they knew what was going on. And it was clear that policy at the state, or especially federal and even international level, was what was really going to be necessary to get that to change. So it became clear to me that if I was going to make a real difference with sustainability and affecting the negative impacts of climate change, it would have to be through government service. And so that's one of the reasons that I decided to stand for re-election again, is because there are just so many things going on that need to be supported. And you've heard them all. Like transit, we've got a housing problem. Do you think housing problem is not related to climate change? I'll tell you how it is when I've got more than 7 minutes. But all of these things are related to it. I've been very outspoken about the parking situation, and you're going to hear more from me and others about parking, because that's absolutely key in a lot of ways to how we deal with the climate. So these things are all connected. So I'm running on a platform, a three-pronged platform that's really only one prong. It's all about sustainability. My three goals are sustainable community, sustainable economy, and sustainable future. And my website is set up to explain how those things are interrelated and why they are the most important thing that we have to do. And I'm absolutely committed to making sure that every decision we make, whether from filling potholes to completing this massive transit system that we're working on, responds to the sustainability and climate change aspects that are important to us. So that's 7 minutes. That's what I'm about. And I'm looking forward to working with Pete and Brian. I'm delighted to have DORR's recommendation and support. And when I say support, just the fact that they're carrying our cards out, your canvassers are going out and doing that in the heat of the day and whatever, and that's just absolutely fantastic. So thank you for that. And I'll just look forward to any questions that you have, and look forward to serving you if you elect me along with Pete and Brian on August 2nd. Thank you.
Thank you, JT. And I look forward to talking more about sustainability with you on Tuesday. Those are always very exciting conversations. Let's have Bernadine Lewis talk with us next. Bernadine, my colleague in my other life, my colleague at NAU, Director for Undergraduate Programs at Franke School of Business. I'm really interested in hearing about the Lived Black Experience dialogues. So great to see you. And Bernadine Lewis, currently running for Coconino County Justice of the Peace. So Bernadine, we'll give you the floor. Thanks so much for joining us.
Well, thank you so much for having me. Greetings to Sedona's illustrious mayor and vice mayor, and all others that are present here today. I want to first extend my gratitude to Ms. Ferreira in her absence, who created a plan to collect signatures for my petitions in a very short time. I am humbled by the kindness of Mr. and Mrs. Gould that they unselfishly and graciously opened up their home to me and the Sedona community to become familiar with me and to provide a space for others to sign my petitions. I am especially grateful to Dr. Coral Evans, who made sure that I was connected to DORR. With the assistance of these individuals and a few others, in 13 days, we were able to gather 577 signatures to get on the ballot when the requirement was 566 total to qualify. It was amazing to witness what our communities can do when we work together. Flagstaff and Coconino County were excited to support a candidate for Justice of the Peace who understood that most of the individuals who come through the People's Court are our Indigenous, Latino, Black, African American, and LGBTQ plus communities. These are the marginalized citizens who need a justice of the peace that will listen to them with understanding and empathy, and most of all, make judgments based upon cultural awareness and sensitivity. Now, Justice of Peace should seek to solve small claims cases in partnership with law enforcement and mental health agencies to implement creative ideas and compromises that will make our community a better, more just place to live and thrive for all people. A Justice of the Peace does not just perform civil marriages. They also preside over evictions. And we know that housing is a big issue in our communities. Rather than evict tenants for non-payment of rent, if it was their first time being late, why not work with them to pay the late fees over a 3 or 4 month period? I would opt for the family to learn how to live on a budget and to learn how to make better financial decisions. This is what I envisioned Flagstaff's new Justice of the Peace being and doing. And notice I said envisioned in the past tense. Sadly, a few days after submitting the requirement documents to the election board on April 4th, I was informed that my signatures were being challenged by the current Justice of the Peace, Howard Grodman. I was served with court documents that stated that the Justice of the Peace, Howard Grodman, not Mr. or Citizen Howard Grodman, was questioning the validity of my signatures. Now, this is where it gets interesting. Grodman is a Democrat who decided to challenge another Democrat. On Monday, April 25th, I appeared in court and was confident that his challenge would be found null and void. When I asked why he challenged my petitions, he said that, in his opinion, my decision to run was late, and he knew that at least 20% of the signatures would not be legitimate. Well, he was correct. It was discovered that In fact, 106 Republicans and independents and a few unregistered voters did indeed sign my petitions. Now, we could have just run our campaigns and publicly debated and let the people decide that it was time for a new justice of the peace. When I asked how he gets his signatures, he admitted on the stand that he uses the VAN, and we know that to be the Voter Activation Network. He uses the VAN to acquire signatures. Well, let's focus on the fact that in 13 days, we pounded the pavements, made phone calls, and knocked on doors, and actually spoke with people and shared our vision for the new justice of the peace. And apparently, Republicans agreed it is about community and not political affiliation. The presiding judge that day was one of Grodman's colleagues who did not recuse themselves. Instead, they ruled that it is or was a clerical mistake when an official court document was filed as Justice of the Peace, Howard Grodman versus Bernardine Lewis. I questioned whether Grodman had the right to speak on behalf of the people, expecting the case to be dismissed because of the gross oversight. Instead, the judge decided in his favor and declared that I could not be a candidate nor run as a write-in. How sad when just a few days before that, Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson was being mistreated and disrespected during the confirmation hearing. In closing, eligibility for becoming a candidate for the Justice of the Peace should be based on the candidate's own merits. In the courtroom, a judge does not ask the plaintiff or the defendant what their political affiliation is. Beloved community, this experience was not a defeat. Instead, I look at it as a pause to raise awareness about nonpartisan elections and as a Lewis to start some good trouble, some necessary trouble. I thank you for the opportunity to share with you. And if you have any questions, and I know it was raised, the Lived Black Experience Project, I'm happy to give a response to that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bernadine. And I believe your story is in fact part of the Lived Black experience, isn't it? I mean, it does. As a social scientist, I'm always interested in how control happens and in our everyday lives. And your story shows how that happens and in expected and unexpected ways. So I'm sorry to hear about that. And but thank you for sharing that. I think that says something about our certainly it says a lot about our political system, right? Yeah. So thank you very much. Questions? Let's open up the floor. Yes, Sue, my neighbor and friend.
Hi. Thanks for calling on me, Frankie. As I was listening to the three of you, not in some cases for the first time, it's always so wonderful to hear from you three. What occurs to me is that I am probably not going to do everything in my power to attend any presentations by your opponents. They just don't do well for my blood pressure. And I'm not expecting to hear anything that would change my mind about my voting for the three of you. But I'm hoping you did. And I was wondering if any of you could give us an idea of where you are diametrically opposed or where you're just not in sync with the kinds of positions that any of those three individuals might be espousing currently, and which you will at some future time, maybe in a forum or something where you're not around all these buddies and friends like we are to you, there would be people who would like to throw darts at your head. And how would you approach any one of those particular positions that your opponents are defending? And if you could be as specific as possible, that would be helpful. Thank you.
Brian.
I'll take a first crack at that. And sorry, Pete and JT, I'm going to take the easy one. At least I think it's an easy one. One of the candidates is opposed to home rule. And, you know, in the case of home rule, you know, my view is this is representative government. You elect counselors to represent you. You trust them to make the decisions that they believe are in the best interest of the community. And if that's what you believe, then home rule makes 100% sense. And it's the only way you ought to think about it, because anything else is taking away some degree of local control. Now, the opponents to home rule will say, but gee, you can go to the voters every year for an annual override of your budget proposal. And I'll be perfectly frank, if that's what the community wants, if we want to have thousands of people vote on every year on the budget, you don't need me. What do you even need a city council for at that point? You can just have some committees to throw some stuff together. So the work of the city council is real. I'm not even on it, but I've certainly been attending enough meetings to see the work that Kathy and JT and Sandy and Scott put into it. And you know, it's crazy to want to put ourselves in a position where every year we have to go to the voters to ask them if it's okay to execute basically this plan for the next year at this budget. So that's my 2 cents on home rule and where we will certainly hear at least one candidate be opposed to it.
Thank you.
Yes.
Pete, do you want to say something?
Sure, I'll say more. Thanks, Brian, for taking the easy one.
Yeah,
yeah, being against home rule is that's just an easy one to talk to. I knocked on some neighbor's door not too long ago, and she asked me about home rule, and she was against home rule. And so I spent 20 minutes talking with her about what it was that she thought was going to happen, and then, you know, what I thought was going to happen. And when I walked away, she said, okay, well, I'm going to do some more reading, but thank you. You know, maybe you're changing my mind. And I would say that in a general sense, of all the doors I've been knocking at, you know, there's only been 3 or 4 or 5 where I've gotten the door slammed in my face. But there's a general sense of, you know, a large fraction of our residents that they're unhappy. And that's what I see the candidacy of these others besides JT and Brian and I that are running, who are taking that sort of, you know, it's all wrong, all you got to do is, or why don't you do this, or, you know, these lines that show that they actually aren't paying attention, okay? Because if they were, they would know how hard work our current council is working on to solve these things. And, you know, to your question, Sue, you know, I've gotten some pushback on social media these days. I posted the fact that I had Red Rock News Q&A and essay and on social media, and I've gotten attacked for destroying San Jose, California, and bringing California politics to Sedona. It's like, oh, okay. And you know, that's fine. People are angry and mad, and I get it. For me, particularly, I think that since I'm running on experience and knowledge, that they need to tear me down because they don't have it. And so that's fine. It's a strategy, and you just can't let it get to you. You just keep moving on, you know, and our current council does a wonderful job with listening to the criticism and continuing to move on. We just have to keep facing these issues. It's going to be, years of hard work to get our infrastructure back in a place where we can tolerate the demand that we put on it, and then think about how we work, with our business community to continue that future, to have the businesses here that we want here. And then, I really do believe that if we make Sedona a place that is wonderful for our residents, it'll be just fine for tourists too. And we just need to continue to focus on those efforts. So hope that helps to answer some of that question.
Yeah, a lot of work to do.
There is.
JP, did you want to
Yeah,
jump in?
I'll jump in. All of that is exactly right. And I'll just summarize it in terms of the whole perspective of my campaign is positivity. If you go to my website, the first thing my slogan is positively. And it was back in 4 years ago as well, my first term. But every year, every time there's an election, everybody's blood pressure goes up. And mostly it's because there are people who feel it's more important to tear down rather than to build up. And candidates, it seems, have a hard time winning when they just talk about what's good about what they represent and how they're going to make it even better. It's so much easier to say that everybody is screwed up, and so throw out all the bad guys. So I'm running a pretty low profile campaign because I'm trying to not spend money. And so this right here, can you see that?
Not so much.
This
on your face.
This is
Yeah.
okay. You can see that. Yeah. This is my
Good to
total.
know, but
This is
Gotta
my
keep it
total.
moving, JT, keep it moving.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. This is my total amount of material that's going out. These cards to hand out to people because that's what can fit in a $500 budget. And it says on the back, so I've got a little bit of space to say what's most important, right? So on the front, I say sustainable community, sustainable economy, and sustainable future. And that's it. And on the back, it starts with heard enough negativity, positive actions for a positive future, need a positive candidate with a positive message. And that's me positively. So these people come around every election. And the only way they're going to be able to differentiate themselves easily, because they're trying to take the easy way out, is to say that whatever the issue is, your council hasn't done anything about it. So vote for me instead. And I know everybody on this call, I see the names, I know just about everybody. You're all way smarter than that. So you don't need to be told. That's not the case. We're on a great path. Brian and Pete are going to help us take it even further because they're really smart and they'll ask good questions when people come before us that need to be asked, and let's just be positive about it. And that's what I'm trying to do.
Thank you.
Kathy and Chris?
Yeah, I just want to say these three candidates should win based on their campaign, on their screen backgrounds. The three of them are great. Brian is looking all professional with the blurred background. With Pete, we got the great 2-for-1 going. But JT wins because he doesn't know that every once in a while, Felicia's arm shows up in the back of him, and we get this bicep shot.
Oh, there she is.
And it's just such a great subliminal. So you've got campaigning down, JT.
So I have a sort of general question. And I'm spurred by Bernadine's experience, but I guess I'm asking all four of you. We know how frustrating politics can be. And Bernadine, your experience was one of a Democrat acting against a newer Democrats. And how do you all maintain positivity? How do you keep positive, knowing how difficult getting to the job is, much less the job itself? So open that up to anyone who wants. Yeah, Pete.
Yeah, I'll take that, Frankie, because I speak about that actually a little bit on the campaign trail. And the 8 years that I served as the chief of staff for the mayor, right? I'm an engineer by training, and I had a full career, and I loved my career. And it was a very unusual set of circumstances that found me being chief of staff to the mayor of the 10th largest city in the United States. And the volume and diversity of stuff that came across my desk every day was just amazing. And you know, it turns out perhaps I'm a little bit of a policy wonk, and I really loved the variety and diversity of the things that we had to talk about and the people that we had to deal with. And it was the hardest that I've worked for an 8-year period in my life. And I walked away being ready to walk away, but I loved it because local government is actually where, you know, you impact people's lives. It's about sewage treatment, it's about policing, it's about potholes, it's about all these things that people care about, and you touch them and you can really help work it. And after 8 years, I was tired, but you know, I loved that work. And I thought when I moved to Sedona, I was just going to ride my bikes, but you know, I'm not done yet because I still feel that calling to help and to get things done. So I hope that helps a little bit.
Yeah, thanks.
Go
ahead, Bernadine and Brian.
I would like to answer that question while also providing some cultural understanding. And so to answer that, you know, being an individual that holds visible melanin, it causes you to be in a constant state of consciousness or awareness of your body language, the way you talk, the tone of your voice, how you engage with others, because you do not want to be is considered the angry Black woman or being too forward, too aggressive. And so when these things happen, and it's very interesting that I get to teach this to students who do not look like me. The lessons of being civil, being respectful, using our decorum, and always being on our best behavior and learning how to turn the other cheek. Being just simply civil and respectful and professional is basically, you never come off. I know for me, I never really come out of character. This is it. But it does get you very far positively with engaging with others.
Thank you. It gave me goosebumps.
Well said. Thank you.
I'll jump in. About 4 to 6 weeks ago, I kind of came to the realization as a candidate that if you want to live in a state of outrage, it's easy to do that. And the social media will fuel that. And, you know, I think it's necessary as a candidate to be paying attention to what people are saying, but you've got to be able to step back and go, okay, really, this is a vocal minority when the day is done that's being so loud and so negative. And, you know, I can't let them, you know, take away the joy in my life. I can choose to be positive, like what JT was talking about. And it's led me to sort of an additional slogan campaign-wise of, look, we got to move from outrage to action. It's fine if you want to be angry, but let's go do something about it instead of just yelling about it on social media. So that and actually not looking at next door as often has been a good thing for me.
Yeah.
But I don't look
back. JT, you want to?
Yeah, Frankie, I'll just add quickly that just because of the way human beings evolved, fear and disgust, things like that, the negative things the things that we needed to do to protect ourselves. And we are blessed to have a prefrontal cortex. And I think we can use that to better advantage than just constantly reverting to our survival instincts and playing on people's emotions and fears. So.
Thank you. Any last comments or words? We're getting to our 11:30 closing.
I'll just throw out to Sue's question a minute ago, some of those other topics where we may be opposed to what some of the other candidates may say, without getting into any details per se, given the time. Some of them are opposed to the trail transit system. Both, at least one of the council and one of the mayoral candidates are opposed to it. So that's something to be aware of. And then one of the other council candidates thinks that, it's just for that magical thinking thing of, oh, we can just diversify our economy beyond tourism, no problem. And when pressed with, okay, well, where are the employees for this diversified economy going to live? There's no answer. So those are a couple of the other areas, Sue, that some of the other candidates, I would say, differ from Pete and JT and myself.
Frankie, if there's time for asking, I would really love to know if there's any particular value or concern that people have here that you would like us to be talking about more.
Good question.
I'll just finish with that, keep your spirits up. I have some suspicion that this election is going to get a little negative here towards the end, not from the mayoral candidates that we have here with us, but from these.
Because if we can't work it out politically,
we're getting some kind of.
Peggy, Shaken, if you can hear us,
okay, good.
we're picking up your mic.
Yep.
Okay.
Go ahead, Pete, and then we'll see.
Okay, so thank you. I was just encouraging everyone to keep their spirits up. I'm worried that some of the campaign is going to get a little negative here at the end. And as I said, it's not the mayoral candidates that are in front of us. It's from some of these newer people who are maybe going to try some new things in Sedona that we haven't seen before. So keep your spirits up. I think it's going to be really important actually for us to spread the word and to get the vote out and to keep people, encouraged and hopeful about our city.
Yeah. Peggy, did you want to have a last?
No, I don't want to have the last word, but I just want to pump the sustainability manager's office and the things we're doing with the climate action plan that emphasize more of a circular economy, the composting program. I would like to see the tool lending library. That might not happen for a while, but the thing is, I've talked to a lot of these people when I've had a table at the farmers market. They're the same people that had that gathering at Red Rock High School. And actually they mentioned the tool lending library there because those are the kinds of grassroots things that appeal to people who are feeling marginalized, who feel that they can't make their ends meet, and they feel like the prosperous Sedona community is ignoring them, and that the city council and mayor are in cahoots with the chamber. So the things that are operating within the climate action plan that reach down and support and get the message out that the city is working towards making a more equitable type of residential experience here, because we can help out by getting some of the more prosperous people in the community to help the ones that are struggling. So, and I just think if you talk more about how that is in those circumstances in a positive way, they might pick up on that thread and be more appreciative of what the city is doing.
Peggy, if you could, if you're available for a call right when we're done with this, I have an update for you on tool lending.
Okay, sure.
Thank you.
Perfect. And that is the last word that we will have for today. Thank you, candidates, for joining us. A really great conversation. We appreciate your time. And I know we will all, we'll all get out the word for you, because this will be a fabulous city government if our slate gets elected. So thank you all for joining us.
Thank you, Dora.
Stay safe.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Bye-bye now.
Bye.